what's going on, guys? Chris Bond here, Overtime Athletes, with my man Phil DeRue, again bringing you another value-filled video. Hey, so real quick, we were just talking, and I want to be able to shoot it for our guys here. One of the common questions that I get, and you guys always ask me because this channel is all about power and speed, is developing power in your kicks and your punch. Obviously I've addressed this before, but I figured, you're the expert, so I'd love to hear from you, kind of your approach. Maybe if you're taking somebody young or just overall how you're generating as much force to be able to develop that knockout power.
We talked about this before, but basically what we're trying to do is we have to get stronger. When you look from a physics standpoint, force times velocity equals power. So we're trying to develop a lot of strength first before we get into the power phase, and then from there we can go ahead and translate that in. Now, as far as kicking and punching power, everything will develop from the hips and the lower body. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're strong in the core, in our hips, so we can transfer that power output when the time comes. So for me, from a sport-specific standpoint, we do a lot of transverse abdominal work. We'll also do a lot of anti-rotation, which people really don't understand, but we do a lot of anti-rotation work just to help with core stability, core strength, work on intra-abdominal pressure to help with proximal stability that leads into distal mobility. So for me, I like to do a lot of rotational med ball throws, slams, throws, and then from the lower body, obviously, we're gonna do box jumps, hurdle hops, things like that. I don't do a lot of depth drops or drop jumps as of right now, just because we're trying to develop that strength. If they're not strong enough to squat double body weight, I really don't do that.
Gotcha.
But everybody can jump on a box.
Right.
And honestly, these guys are going through a lot of high impact situations. So for me to put more impact on their joints like that from a high standpoint, it's really not conducive. It's probably gonna be more apprehensive or it won't be beneficial for them.
Right.
So what I would wanna do is, we also do lower impact plyometrics, like just like some standard single leg bounds or hops or skips, things like that, to help introduce power into the system. And then from there, once they develop that eccentric strength and the stability in their joints, then we can get into the real explosiveness.
So let me ask you something. Let's say you take a particular fighter and you notice, as far as something like a squat or a deadlift, his absolute strength is pretty high. Do you immediately start to, is there like a magic number for you, or do you just kind of be intuitive as far as, hey, this guy has great absolute strength, let me start focusing on translating this to power so that it comes out in their striking?
Yeah, so once they develop that structural integrity to be able to squat or deadlift double body weight, that's usually my hit point.
So you don't need, it's diminishing returns. I don't need to get you squatting 500 pounds.
No.
Right, gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this is a weight class sport. So I honestly only need them really to be able to lift up their opponent, several times throughout the fight. So as long as they're able to lift double that body weight, because in a sense though, the higher their 1 rep max, the easier it is to pick up somebody that's their weight a bunch of different times. But if their 1 rep max is lower, then it's going to be harder. So if I take a guy that has, let's just say, for instance, these guys aren't football players or not powerlifters, but we want them to be relatively strong. So what happens is I get their 1 rep max or their maximal strength or absolute strength up to where, the people that they're picking up or when they're taking people down, things like that, it's not gonna be physically taxing, overriding the ATP stores and not being able to do this for a long duration. So we wanna get them strong enough to where it's light enough for the person or their competitor, right? Or their, opponent, that it's not going to tax them if they pick them up and drop them to the floor once. Right. So they should be able to sustain that for 5 minutes.
Yeah, and you were just talking to me over here. You were talking about how you want to be able to have that power even when that athlete's fatigued.
Yeah.
Is there a particular approach that you do as you come at it where they're like, as far as technique standpoint, I understand, because a lot of that's focus. That's a lot about putting them in a fatigue state and then having them focus. But what do you do to be able to get that power late in the rounds? What's your approach as far as that goes?
Well, we'll go back to it. Just got to get them stronger. You know what I'm saying? And then from there, obviously, we want to build a high aerobic base so that they're not breathing a whole bunch of oxygen leading into acidosis buildup, right? So if they have a high VO2, that actually helps translate because they're not using a lot of oxygen or energy to pick up weight. So usually I see a lot of my guys, and a lot of them have, and girls too, have very high VO2s, and they're capable of recovering super fast. So we do a full VO2 assessment. We do a full VO2 test before training just to see where they're at. And usually they're up in the hierarchy range. if they're able to recover within 1 minute, I know once they get done with a round, as soon as they hit the stool, when they come back, they're ready to go 100%.
Gotcha.
But as far as getting back to your question, to keep them actively powerful, we have to manage our outputs. Right? So that comes back to a tactical perspective.
Okay.
Also
More
understand.
skill.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Also understanding, muscle fibers, fast twitch, slow twitch, things like that. If they're primarily fast twitch, we know they have a limited amount of output that they can produce throughout long durations. I have a guy named by the name of Tyron Woodley. He's a welterweight world champion of UFC. Very fast twitch dominant, right? Could be a football player if he really wanted to. So his output is going to be a little bit different than somebody who has a high aerobic output.
He has a heavier fist because of his overall.
That's why he knocks. That's why he knocks people out.
That's why he knocks people out. Gotcha. And the stronger you are, the more. What do you see? Like, so somebody at him, he's got that. It's just pure. Basically, he's this amazing athlete as far as power goes. He's able to generate as much. His rate of force development is the highest tier. Is elite level.
So what we want to do with a person like that is we want to develop a high VO2 output. We want to develop an aerobic base, maybe even, to an extent, taking some of that fast twitch and turning it into slow twitch. Because remember, this is a mixed aerobic system sport. So we have to make sure that all the bioenergetic demands.
All energy systems are firing.
Exactly.
Got you. All right, well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, bro. I appreciate that. Heck yeah, I hope that brings a lot to you guys. I'll holler at you guys next time.